What's going on, everybody? It is Russell Clay here again for another episode of Clay's Corner, though there hasn't been one in a while. I'm really excited to get back to doing these. We are back in the off season, and I thought today it would be a good idea to sort of go through the 2022 season, maybe look at some 2023 prospects, and finish off with talking about a project I'm thinking about doing for this off season. So thank you all for tuning in. Again, my name is Russell Clay. You can find me on Twitter at RussellJClay. If you like this video, please give it a like and also subscribe to the all YouTube channel. I'd really appreciate it. And if you're watching on Fantasy Guru, thank you so much. And let's get into it. So I figure we could do a quick jump through the positions. Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. I'm going to give some overarching thoughts of what I think about, these positions and where I see things headed the next couple years. And then we'll move on. So let's start with quarterback. As you can see, we're on myfantasyleague.com. We're looking at fantasy points. That's the game we play. So I think we should start there. When you sort of look at this, I think the changing of the guard that we were predicting a few years ago, the sort of old guard that was sticking around, has finally, mercifully fallen off. Tom Brady, still kicking, had a reasonable year, 24 touchdowns, 4,600 passing yards, but didn't quite have that same upside as 2021. And as you can see here, a lot of the youngins here have started to take over the fantasy landscape. So when we look at Patrick Mahomes, he's 27. I know he feels like some of the old guard here, but he's only 27. Josh Allen, 26. Jalen Hurts, 24. Joe Burrow, 26. And Justin Fields is 23. So the top 5 fantasy scorers this year, at least in the regular season, were 27 years old or younger. And I think that's going to be a theme here. We got Daniel Jones, 25 years old, getting Brian Dable. We got, Trevor Lawrence here, 23 years old. Jared Goff, 28 years old, so still young. I know it feels like he's been around forever. He has been. And then we sort of get into the top, 10, 11. That's where Brady, Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, QB 15, even though he was not really usable this year, and a bunch of other young guys mixed in. So, the fall off of Brady, Rodgers, and also Russell Wilson has just opened this crease for these young guys to come through, and they are barreling through. Jalen Hurts really proved himself this year as a very impressive young quarterback. I'm not sure how long he's going to be able to run for, 150 plus rushing attempts per year. Same thing with Josh Allen. I don't know how long he's going to be able to be tumbling over opposing defenders, but we'll see. Same with Justin Fields, Daniel Jones. But I will say, this is starting to look a little more like the college game where these running quarterbacks score a ton of fantasy points and steal fantasy production away from their friends on their teams. So that's something to watch out for. I don't know that running is going away anytime soon. And in fact, I think a lot of these quarterbacks, they may not last forever, but we're going to see them continue to produce pretty reasonable fantasy production over the next couple years. So that's what I see there. The Brady, Rodgers, people have been living off borrowed time for many years, especially with Brady. I remember he was a sell high in like 2010 because he turned 30 something. So think about that and keep that in mind when Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Herbert, Fields, all these guys turn 30, because the non-running quarterbacks, or even some of the running quarterbacks, might last till their mid to late 30s, as most of these guys do nowadays. So that's what I'm looking at there. I think we got a young guard here. The young guard is kind of coming in and has established itself, and I think they're going to be here to stay for quite a few years. All right, running back. I've been very sort of vocal about what's going on this last couple years with the running backs. What is happening is these old running backs are sticking around. We're not really getting any young guys emerging. And so these 2017 and 2018 running back classes are continuing to dominate fantasy football. And quite frankly, I'm not sure that that's going to end in 2023. When you look at Austin Eckler, 27, Christian McCaffrey, 26, 27 in June, Josh Jacobs, February just turned 24, but he's going to be a free agent, already 4 years in the league. Derrick Henry, 29, going to be, entering his age 30 season next year. Saquon, he's 25, but, he's had quite a few injuries there. And Nick Chubb, 27. Aaron Jones, 28. And even Tony Pollard's 25. I mean, these guys are old for running backs. Dalvin Cook, 27. Then we got Ramondre. He's 24. It's not like we're getting any of these 21, 22-year-olds. Leonard Fournette, 27. Joe Mixon, 26. Miles Sanders, 24, 25. Yeah. So even a guy like Najee was an old rookie. He's already 24. And you look at a guy like Jamal Williams, 27. The league winners this year for running back were all veterans. And this is the inverse of what we saw when these 2017 and 2018 running back classes first came into the NFL. All these guys came in at the same time, and we're watching them dominate an entire era of running back production. The 2020, 2021, and 2022 running back classes simply have not emerged, and we have not gotten these featured guys other than maybe a Jonathan Taylor. So we're really struggling here for those trying to build for the future. We're seeing a lot of pain on these youth builds because these teams that are building win now and trying to go for the current year, it keeps being that current year that's winning. So keep that in mind. To me, I know we saw the Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, all these guys sort of fall off, at age 25, but historically that was never the case. So I think we could argue that this is actually returning to a somewhat norm where some of these guys do stick around till their mid to late 20s. We saw a lot of that in the mid 2000s. Guys like LaDainian Tomlinson were dominating until they were 28, 29 years old. So I think this could be here to stay for a few years. The most talented running backs are just older right now. So, eventually these guys are going to fall off, but it might not be as quick. It already isn't as quick as we thought it was going to be. And it may not be, a thing that happens right away here. So just keep in mind for that. All right. Wide receiver. Obviously, we have some similarities here. The same wide receivers have been, at the top of the leaderboard for quite a few years now. Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs. This is going on 3 or 4 years now where it's just the same guys every year. And we ran into this in the mid-2010s with Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, guys like that. And then we had A.J. Green, Calvin for a few years there. It was the same guys every year. And we're in a similar era. I think that should be slowing down soon. But again, historically speaking, a guy like Stephon Diggs, 29 years old, that's not necessarily the end. A guy like Devontae Adams, 30 years old, we've seen guys, the elite wide receivers, stick around to 31, 32 sometimes. So same thing with Tyreek Hill. I know he's a smaller speed-based guy, but we've seen those guys stick around as well. So I don't know that it's going to be over for these guys necessarily yet. We could have another couple years of elite production from this trio, but it is kind of like frustrating as someone with youthful builds here, waiting for these guys to fall off, and they just simply will not fall off. So that's something we got to think about as well. But I do think this new guard, Jefferson, Brown, Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith. So for the most part, we are seeing a new crop of wide receivers enter into the fantasy relevant realm. We're seeing guys like Christian Kirk, Michael Pittman, DJ Moore, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Juju Smith-Schuster. We're seeing a nice mix of veterans and young producers kind of build up this fantasy landscape. So this is pretty par for the course. I mean, there's always going to be veterans at the top. Just for a while there, we were having much younger guys at the top at wide receiver. So this is pretty standard. I think we can look at that and say whatever. Tight end, it is what it is. Travis Kelce, 33 years old. Again, this is the same thing where these eras can last forever at, tight end and quarterback. Rob Gronkowski made us forget about the Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates of the world, Jason Witten's. These guys last forever. These top guys. So the fact that Travis Kelce's producing into his mid-30s is not totally shocking. The fact that he's producing this type of production into his, mid-30s is pretty shocking. But overall, I mean, Travis Kelce's a really special guy, special coach with him, and the best quarterback in the league. So, the fact that he's putting up these immense numbers is pretty wild. What's not normal is the rest of this landscape. This is pretty gnarly. I do like that Brock Purdy started to use George Kittle at the end of the year. We started to see that elite upside that we've known so well. But early season, he was a dud. Mark Andrews with his quarterback issues has been sort of a dud in the second half of the year. Look at that. I mean, just crushed in the second half of the year. So, we're in flux with the tight end landscape here. It's usually pretty ugly when you get into tight end 5 to 15, 5 to 20. But it was especially ugly this year, and I do think a guy like Pat Freiermuth can emerge. Cole Kmet. We got Brock Bowers at Georgia coming in 2024. Kyle Pitts, I do think will be a valuable fantasy asset in the coming years, even though this year was a disaster. So I'm digging it. I think we're in a good spot here. So overall, we're in a good spot. But the actual fantasy production this year was way off. So not great. All right, let's take a quick look at some prospects here, and then I will talk about project, and then we'll get out of here. So CJ Stroud, I'm just going to quickly go through this 2023 introduction. CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, clearly the top quarterbacks in this class. Feels very similar to the Haskins Kyler Murray draft, where I'm not totally enamored with either. I like Stroud more. I feel like he has more long-term potential. But I also thought that about Dwayne Haskins. This is not the 2021 class where I'm uber confident in Lawrence, uber confident in Fields. This does not have the same feel to me. I like Young, I like Stroud, but they're not, guys I'm putting my reputation on the line for. They're good. I like them. They're worthy of taking shots on in Superflex drafts, but that's kind of what we're looking at here. Running back, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs are two guys that I think are worthy of first-round NFL draft picks, which means they're worthy of our Dynasty rookie draft picks. Gibbs is a fun receiver-based. He can do it all. Alvin Kamara-y. That comp gets overused, but Gibbs is a guy that comes along and you say, okay, this is a guy who has the potential to actually use that archetype and actually fill out the fantasy production there. Bijan should be the 101 in my opinion. I get that not everyone's as high as me on him, but really special player there and a guy that really has it all. So excited to see where he lands. Jackson Smith-Njigba, a guy that got 5 catches in his final season. Really curious what the NFL thinks of him. All I needed to see was 2021, and that's pretty much it. I'm good. I'm good after that. So, I think he's a first-round caliber prospect. It may not end up equating to that because of his final season, but I think that's what he is. Quentin Johnstone, we were waiting for him to emerge for a few years there. 5-star recruit, finally showed us that epic upside in 2022, but overall, sort of a all over the place prospect. Does have a lot of potential though. And then Michael Mayer, I think, is the last guy I want to look at here. Fun tight end prospect. Maybe not elite like Brock Bowers and Kyle Pitts, but is a guy worthy of a first-round pick in the NFL draft, and a guy that, for people who were really desperate at tight end this year, could be a guy who could emerge by year 2 as a really fantasy-relevant guy. So, all right. So that is, what we're going to look at there. And one quick thing before I head out here, I just want to mention that one of my favorite things to do is interview people. And I'm getting a list together for this offseason, and I think I'm going to turn Clay's Corner into a maybe not every week an interview, but I am going to want to do interviews. Maybe we'll interview prospects. Maybe we'll interview guys in the fantasy industry. But that is something I've always wanted to do, and I think this is a great platform to do it. So, if that's something that excites you, or you see someone that wants to, that's intriguing to you, maybe reach out and say, hey, I'm curious with this guy. You want maybe interview him. So I'm going to have a list of guys, but let's see where this goes, and I'm excited for the future. So as always, thank you for tuning in. You can find me on Twitter at Russell J. Clay. So I'm excited for the offseason this year, and thank you for joining me on it. I'll see you next time.